Welcome back to the Box Brothers podcast. He is Nick Perez. I'm Ben Perez, and we are joined by Wyla Perez for all the people on YouTube. She is me and my girlfriend partner's golden doodle. So she is probably not going to be with us for a lot, but we have a good show for everyone today. We are going to be previewing the British Grand Prix in Silverstone. We're going to be talking about the teams up and down the grid, the competition, and Nick has a little bit. So Nick, how are you feeling about this weekend?
Ben, you know, it's the British Grand Prix. There's only a handful of British drivers still on the grid today. But you know who the best British driver is of all time? Maybe not of all time. Yeah, he's definitely up there. But I'm trading in my Red Bull Max Verstappen this week to get me some good Ferrari action. Hopping on the Lewis hype train for the weekend. I say Lewis Hamilton gonna re-find his form like he found in China, and he is gonna win the British Grand Prix. That's what I like to hear.
Like he found in China, you said?
Like he found in China.
Okay, I'm loving the hat. For the people just listening to the podcast, Nick did his whole college prediction hat that brought out Ferrari out of nowhere, but I love to see that red. I love to see you hopping on the Ferrari bandwagon, and let's get this British bias across the line in P1 come Sunday.
We need it. I need to see Lewis Hamilton show me something. I need to see it. But this, of all the tracks, it's gonna be him. It's not gonna be Mushroom Gorge. It's not gonna be Lando. It's not gonna be Albon. He's technically British, technically Thai. I don't know. It's not gonna be them. It's gonna be Sir Lewis Hamilton getting it done in the red for the first time. Have I been lagged this whole time?
All right. I absolutely love that red. And I guess that brings me to the first question that I have. You've been frozen, but that's okay. The audio has been fine. You're literally just this, holding your Ferrari hat. So that's going to be a fun one. But that brings me to our first question, and it actually relates back to his old team in Mercedes. And the rumor mill has been churning for the upcoming announcement that Max Verstappen is in deep negotiations with Mercedes for possibly 2026, but more likely 2027, 2028. If people haven't heard this story, Sky Italy, so Sky Sports sister company in Italy, had broken news probably about Tuesdays when I sent you over the news that Max Verstappen's camp is in strong negotiations with Mercedes for an upcoming race seat. So Nick, let me just get your initial thoughts on that. What are you thinking? Is this a good play for Mercedes to kick out George? Where do you see them going with this move?
So this kind of goes back to preseason talk. So Toto said the preseason, he's like, I'm always going to look for a world champion driver if he's out there. You can't not look at Max Verstappen. You can't not flirt with Max Verstappen. After Canada and George wins the race and everything, if you look at Toto's comments, he said that he wouldn't flirt with another team, but then it leaked that Max Verstappen's camp had actually approached Mercedes first. So is it just them being polite and them talking to Max Verstappen? Is it them in full deep conversations with them? And thing is, Kimi and George's contract are both up at the end of this year. Now,
Kimi's is. I didn't realize that Kimi's was up.
They're both to 2025.
Okay.
So it really, I think it'd be very interesting. You've seen Toto handle two top drivers before with Nico Rosberg and Lewis Hamilton. So I don't think that scares him to keep George and Max. Now, the thing I do think is Toto is super duper high on Kimi Antonelli, and he thinks that he is going to be the next world champion. But that who's not already on the grid. He's going to be the youngest world champion. Now, do you think that Austria last week was Max playing nice with his new teammate after the wreck?
Partly yes, but partly yes, because I don't think that he wanted to burn bridges. Partly, I think that he respects Kimi as a F1 driver, so I don't think that he was super mad about the rookie move. And Kimi came out made admitted his mistake as soon as he had done it. And it was a driving incident. The cars are much heavier at the beginning of the race. Excuse me, choking on just some spit. But the cars are carrying a lot more weight at the beginning. They're harder to stop. He tried to brake a little bit too late, locked up, took out Max. It's just a racing incident. So I don't think Max was too upset about it. I think if Kimi was Esteban Ocon or someone who had more racing experience or someone that he frankly just didn't like, then he would have reacted a bit differently to that crash. But I would love to see Max and Kimi in the same driver's seat. And I think the race was talking about this today or maybe yesterday when were talking about their perspective on the story. And they said that George could get a 1+1. There's nothing signed for George. I think George is trying to do a longer term deal, but Toto doesn't want a longer term deal because if they can prove to the Max Verstappen camp that they are capable of winning world championships, he would rather bring in Max over George. And I don't blame him because as good of a driver as George is and as consistent as a driver as George is, he is probably still a 1B to Max's 1A. And Max is just that little bit better, that little bit more ruthless, that little bit more consistent, or not consistent, but that has that little bit higher of a ceiling compared to George week in and week out.
Yeah, and 100%. My thing with George Russell is that I frankly just don't like him. But that's just a me thing. I don't like him as my number one driver. I don't think he has that spirit to lead a team. I mean, I think you've seen it through this new era. But I just feel like I'd rather have Max. And I'm a big Max fanboy. I think Max could be the greatest driver to ever drive a car. I know that's a lot of high praise, but I think Max could possibly end up becoming one of the greatest drivers of all time. So,
well, I mean, he's in that category
in there
right now.
Yeah. 100%.
He's in that category right now because he has 4 championships and he's not going to get his 5th this year. McLaren's just too far ahead. But this next cycle of regulations, 2026, is the biggest decision of his life. To be up there with Lewis Hamilton and Michael Schumacher is really who he's competing with.
Yeah, 100%. And I feel like this is a great stepping stone moment for Max, that if he were to make the move, that it wouldn't be out of pocket. I don't feel like there would be a lot of things he didn't accomplish with Red Bull. I mean, he got everything that he set out to accomplish. He won 4 world championships in a row. But at the end of the day, without Max, where is that team? Do you think their success has blinded them from where they are now? Because you saw it in the Austrian Grand Prix. Max went down. Team was nowhere. Am I lagging that much?
Yeah, you're lagging a bit. I think that I'm also lagging on your end because there's a good 3-second delay between when I finish speaking and then I just hear
well, that's not good. Can you hear me
I
all
also
right?
started a TikTok for us.
Oh, that's fun. I always said to the team
I can hear you.
It would
Can
be
you hear me?
ideal. Yeah, I can hear you.
Start that over again? No, start what you said again. It'd be ideal for
I was
the
just
team.
reading off what Max said. He said,
were you saying something?
I'm not going to say.
Yeah. Can you read that off
so
again?
This is Max Verstappen on... This is kind of just disjointed right now, I feel. Okay, so where are we at in our combo? Sorry.
Do you want to go back and
this
start
isn't
over?
Gonna work.
Do you want to try in the media room?
I'm going to move because it's taking you too long to respond to me.
We left off talking about Max. You were reading his little thing about Mercedes.
Yeah, so this was... All right, you ready?
Mm-hmm.
So this was Max Verstappen's comments on if he could imagine driving for another Formula One team in general. He said, I'm going to say no, because if I said yes, people will make headlines again, and that's not what I want. And then he said if he could, I always said to the team it would be ideal, and I think they feel the same way if they could, to finish off my career in Formula One with one team. I think that would be something amazing, and that's what we're still trying to achieve here. So there's loads of different stories. Max is talking to a bunch of different teams, but I still feel like his heart, he wants to stay at Red Bull. But at the end of the day, it is a business decision. So whatever he can end up finding a world champion driving car in, because he is a world champion driver. So Like it's wherever he can find home.
And I mean, he would look really good in the silver arrows, in my opinion. So with that, I think the big three teams that he has to choose between is Red Bull, who probably isn't going to do super well come 2026. I haven't really heard much hype from their Ford engine or what their plans are in the future. And then Mercedes and Aston Martin. And I think if Aston Martin doesn't get Max, and Max ends up going to Mercedes, then I think that moves George over to the Astons.
Yeah, that would be, there is a very funny scenario where Carlos gets dropped from Williams, Kimi gets replaced by Max, Kimi goes to Williams to grow up a little bit, and Carlos Sainz finds his way back into Red Bull.
This just feels like the red strings on the cardboard, the cardboard, is that what it's called? The cardboard little thing that police.
Yeah, like the trying to figure out a mystery. But I think
drawing all those different lines.
I think it'll be done by the end of this weekend. I think because Mercedes will announce their driver.
Yeah. All right. So if you had to put a bet down, who do you think that Mercedes is going to have for the 2026 season?
I think for the 2026 season, they will have Mushroom George Russell, the Brit, announcing it back at his home race. And I think they're going to keep him sign him for another 1-year deal. And then Max is going to stay at Red Bull for 1 year and just see where all the teams shake up. And then that's when he will make his move.
Yeah. So Kimi's partnering Russell next year.
That's what I feel like.
I 100% agree with you. So, Nick, let's go down the grid this week. There's a chance of rain for both qualifying and racing. So that is making actual predicting who's going to do well around this track more difficult than it would be if it was just a dry race. But let's start up at the top and let's talk about the papaya. Well, actually, for this week, the chrome rules and the McLaren. So how do you think that they're going to fare around Silverstone this week? Do you think that Lando stays atop and keeps his form rolling, or do you think Oscar makes a pushback extends his title lead against Lando?
So I really feel like Oscar is going to recome to form. I feel like he's going to put it on pull. If he gets 2 full qualifyings, we haven't really seen Oscar in the wet this year. I know that he is still an animal, but I feel like the wet should give him and Lando a little bit of trouble, especially if it's a dry race going to a wet in the later stages. We know that Lando Norris has had his deal, especially with Sochi in the rain, his pissing away his first race win. So I feel like that can cause a lot of issues. And I mean, we even saw it last week when Lando was towards the end of the race and Oscar was chasing him. Lando sounded almost defeated on the radio. He was radioing in and he's like, man, he's just faster in every sector, isn't he? And like he just seemed really defeated in the car. Even though Oscar ended up not passing him, his team radio messages just kind of seemed like to paint a picture of him not really feeling comfortable in his abilities. So I feel like the pendulum really swings back. Up. I mean, but it wasn't though. That was Lando's voice. It was Lando's voice. Lando was in there being like, man, I don't know if I can. He's just faster, isn't he? Like, there's nothing I can do. I can't drive the car any faster.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think that it's 100% false that Oscar was worried. I also think at that point of the race, he was getting dirty air from the back markers, and the back markers were messing with his sector times because once Oscar started to get through the back markers as well, then he faced similar lap time issues as Lando was at the front. So I think it was a little bit overplayed. I think that honestly, Oscar does remain behind Lando this week, and I think Lando closes the gap. I don't think that it's a 1-2 again in Silverstone, but I think Lando slightly closes the lead. And Oscar Piastri reminds me of the monster from It Follows. Have you seen this movie, Nick? Okay. Well, it's essentially the movie is the monster is supposed to represent an STD. Anyway, that's not the point of the analogy. Okay. The analogy is in this
random thing to throw in there.
The monster is just very slow, but always just consistent. And no matter how far that you get ahead of it, it will continue at its pace to eventually get to you. And that's how I feel about Oscar Piastri, is that his floor is so high that even on his bad days, he's going to come home fourth in that car. I think right now Lando's ceiling is still a bit higher than Piastri's ceiling. Oscar's consistency is higher than Lando's, if that makes sense.
100%. And I mean, like, I don't know. I feel like Oscar is just a good driver, and he always puts it into really good places. I don't know. I feel like Oscar is just gonna take it this weekend, if it's just a 2-horse race.
Yeah. Well, we'll see if it's a 2-horse race. A team that is probably going to have something to say about that is the team in red that you were hyping up at the beginning of this podcast, and Ferrari. They made a step up last week with their floor upgrades. They're coming in with your boy now apparently, and Lewis Hamilton, who has scored, I think, a podium on the last 14 Silverstones that he's competed in. Some have been a sneaky backdoor finish, but he has come home on that podium. So how do you think the Ferrari boys are going to fare with Lewis and Charles this week?
Yeah, I mean, like, it's definitely going to be interesting to see what they do. I'm really high on Lewis this weekend for a multitude of reasons. One, he's going back home. It's probably his favorite track. I don't know if it is his favorite track, but it is probably up there in one of his favorite tracks. But I feel like Lewis...
It's 1-2 with Interlagos.
Yeah, it's going to be his moment to shine. He's been in the team long enough to where he's finally like getting into a little bit of a groove. If Ferrari don't do it to him, I feel like he has a very good shot of beating Charles and winning the race overall. I feel like Charles has really been helped out by...
Oh, go for it. You think Charles has been helped out for...
I think he's been helped out by team strategy a ton in his finishing positions this year, along with beating Lewis a lot of the times, because it almost seems like Ferrari doesn't want them to fight at all. And that's a very interesting thing to have happen to your team. So overall, I'm very interested to see what ends up happening with their team orders more than anything.
Yeah, I think Lewis needs to pull a Carlos Sainz to be team orders, and we saw it. I forget which one it was either 2024 or 2023 when Carlos Sainz actually won the British Grand Prix by disobeying team orders and going and getting his bread. And I know we had talked about this in our previous clip in one of our shorts, but he did make his own luck, and it did pay off because he came out on the top of the podium. I think Lewis needs to draw some of that Carlos energy and say, all right, Ferrari, I think you're a shit show, but I'm going to save us today because I know how to race around this track. So I am also high on Lewis coming home on the podium this week. So fingers crossed that we both get that done. Moving on, Nick, let's start rapid firing these because we're getting to the midfield. And quick thoughts on Mercedes, George, and Kimi this weekend. Anything?
I mean, I feel like they're going to have a pretty decent weekend. Their car is kind of built for a track like Silverstone. So I feel like we're going to see a pretty good result in them. And then moving right along into the Red Bull, calling them a midfield team is kind of crazy because without Max, I think they may be a back marker.
Yeah.
I think they may be a back marker. But either way, I feel like both the Mercedes and the Red Bulls Max will have a pretty good showing this weekend. I do feel like Yuki is just going to stay where he is at, though.
Yeah, I am not going to put any money, any faith in Yuki this week. I tried to last week for my picks on Grid Rival, and that didn't turn out. It's just a child who constantly disappoints you, and I hope that he does find some form. I think if it's a wet weather race, then Max has an opportunity to be up there, and I think he's going to be competing for a podium this week, like always. And then it should be cooler for Mercedes, so hopefully that will help out their car and tire temps so that they can stay in the optimal operating window. Moving down to 5, Nick, this team has kind of been on a backslide, had a double DNF in Austria, and the Williams team led by James Vowles gets that contract extension, and then everything starts falling apart.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like the Williams definitely not upgrading their car anymore has definitely hurt them, and it's starting to see by how good their car was at the start to compare to what it is today. I definitely feel like they're going to be on the up and up next year. I feel like this year was just them kind of proving to get back to form, knowing that they weren't going to win this world championship, even if they were scoring races pretty consistently, race points pretty consistently. I do feel like their big plan is to compete for a world champion. And I mean, that's everybody's plan, but I feel like their goal is really concrete on these new regulations.
I agree. I think they probably will have the better showing. I'm not expecting a double DNF, but I think that out of the two drivers, Albon has the best opportunity to do well this week. Moving on to Racing Bulls, Liam Lawson came home 6th last week in Austria, had a mega weekend, finally beat his teammate for the second time this year. Do you think that Isaac Hadjar stays low, or does he have a bounce back week?
Oh, I think it's a bounce back week. And I mean, his race position wasn't even that bad. He came back in 12th. Granted, ruined my picks. But I still feel like he is going to have a great showing out there at Silverstone. I have a lot of people finishing in the top 12 right now, or top 10. So this will be, I don't know.
It'll be interesting. I definitely agree with you. Isaac has the bounce back week, comes home, especially if it starts raining. I forget which track it was, other than Australia that was Jack Doohan. Other than Australia crashing out during the formation lap, he did shine in Monaco. I know that wasn't wet, but that was a very difficult track. So I think Isaac will have the bounce back week and beat his teammate Lawson for the 9th time this season. Moving down to Haas, Nick. Ali Behrman 100%. And Esteban Ocon. Esteban Ocon has been just keeping these backdoor top 10 finishes.
Yeah, and I mean,
what are your thoughts on the Haas boys?
I really don't like it to continue their great run. I don't feel like the Haas is really built for a track like Silverstone. And I also do feel like they're going to be able to put a decent showing and fight for those last point spots, but overall, I'm not too high on the Haas boys this weekend.
Yeah, I'm not either. They have been just yo-yoing all season, so it's been 2 ups for the past 2 weekends, so I'm also predicting a down for Silverstone. Moving on to the team in 8th place, a point behind Haas, Aston Martin. I have faith in Fernando Alonso, but not in Stroll. So what are your thoughts on them this week in Silverstone?
You know what?
Riding the stroller coaster?
I was going to say I have faith in Stroll again. I'm not riding the stroller coaster. No, I think Fernando will continue to be Fernando Alonso, and I do believe that I feel like they're going to be putting in the points again. I feel like Fernando has just found this consistent form that he will be able to stick with and keep going.
All right. Well, Nick, for your sake, I hope there's a couple DNFs up at the top, because I think that you've chosen everyone to finish in the top 10. The next team on the list is going to be Kick Sauber. They've found some form. They're not a backmarker team. They're 2 points behind Aston Martin, 3 points behind Haas. So how do you think Gabriel Bortoleto and Nico Hülkenberg do this weekend?
I feel like they're going to finish in the point. I'm joking. Nico Hülkenberg, actually, the Kicked car has been doing pretty well. I feel like they're going to be fighting for points this weekend.
I mean, I feel like they're going to be up there fighting. And I think this is where the F1 season has become fantastic, because it is so hard to pick who is going to get a top 10 finish, because honestly, all of these teams besides Alpine, I don't think are going to be in the points, but Williams has an opportunity. Max does, Racing Bulls does, Haas does, Aston Kick. They're all jockeying for those 7, 8, 9 positions. Like, I don't think it's unreasonable or crazy that you like as many drivers as you do.
No, I mean, everybody's good.
And we're only halfway through the season, Nick. We have 12 more races to just make wrong predictions. And
doesn't that get you
so
fired?
Satisfied. It does.
Fired up to drivers every week. The wrong podium, the wrong teammate battles. Doesn't that get you fired up, man? We got 12 more weeks.
I'm super excited. I'm actually 3-1-1. No, that doesn't make sense. 4-1-1 with our predictions.
Well, I'm not. Oh, do we even need to talk about Alpine? Do we need to talk about Alpine and the stupidness that happens in their front office? Do we? They're not going to finish in the points. Pierre's going to qualify. Pierre's going to make it to Q3 and then fall out by the end of the race.
Yeah, we can talk about them once they sign Bottas at the midsummer break.
Yep.
All right. Well, that does it for our grid. Nick, let's get into our predictions next. All right, Nick, let's get into our competition. The score is currently 8-7 me. I keep forgetting to say that at the end of our race reviews, but I'm leading by 1 point. And as always, we are going to choose a top 10 finisher, a teammate battle. If you do choose the second person in the team, you will get 2 points. And then we will do a podium. So Nick, let's have you start us off today. Who are you coming home, or who do you have coming home as a top 10 finisher?
I have Ollie Behrman coming home as my top 10 finisher.
That actually plays into one of my
field,
predictions. Yeah, a little bit out of left field, but I don't hate that. One of your previous Williams or Racing Bulls can't hit, but let's see how you do that week. This week, Nick, I'm going to go with the person who has been out of the points for the past 2 weeks, and we were just talking about him, but I'm going to go Isaac Hadjar, reclaims his race pace, and comes home in the points this week.
Understandable. What about for your teammate battle, Ben?
So I'm actually going to take who you have in the top 10, and I'm going to have Behrman beating Ocon. Ocon has had the better of him the past 3 or 4 weeks. So I am predicting that Behrman shows some pace and outperforms his teammate in the race and comes home ahead of Esteban. What about you, Nick? Who do you have as your teammate battle?
I got Kimi Antonelli beating George Russell.
Ooh, okay. Any reason behind that?
No, I just like Kimi.
All right. I love that prediction because I do have him as my talent driver in my fantasy league. So I am with you on Kimi beating George. But it is not going to do well for my podium prediction because for my podium, I have George Russell coming home in third. I'm going to take our boy, Lewis Hamilton, coming home on that second spot of the podium. And then I do think Lando Norris comes home with the victory this week in first.
Yeah, and are you ready to hear the greatest podium of all time? What will be the podium of the British Grand Prix? It's going to be Max Verstappen in third place. After he gets done with a tight three-way battle for the lead, battling all race. In second place, Oscar Piastri will get it done to secure second. And then first, after being in second the whole race, and Lando Norris pitting for interns too quickly in the rapidly changing race, but Lewis Hamilton's able to stick it out on hards. Lewis Hamilton will put it in to win the British Grand Prix for 2025. Lando Norris is going to overcorrect on his strategy. Lando will be leading by miles the whole race. He's going to get a little bit of rain. He's going to be like, no, I got a box. I got a box again. I got a box. It boxes for interns, shunts him out of the race, and Lewis Hamilton inherits the lead and wipes the floor.
Love the prediction. I absolutely love the prediction. All right, Nick, real quick before we head out, let's look up grid rival lines and do our locks of the week. Who are you taking? And take your time looking up the grid rival.
For my grid rival,
don't do practice
locks
one
of the week. I'm doing practice one. Wait, the cutoff's in 11 hours? Oh, for practice one. Oh, for the race.
Yeah, for P1. Yeah.
For the race, I have Lando Norris doing worse than second. And I have the Sir Lewis Hamilton better than 4.5.
Okay. Lando worse than 2, better than 4.5 on Hamilton.
Yes.
I'm going to go down the grid, and I'm actually going to testy bestie at 14.5. Give me worse for that.
Worse.
And who else do I like? Wait, where's my... They don't have Isaac Hajar on the line.
Yup.
No.
What are you going to do?
You know what I am going to do, Nick? I'm going to go with that second Red Bull seat and give me worse for Yuki Tsunoda at 13.5.
I like it.
Yeah. So just a recap, Nick's locks of the week: Lando worse than 2, Hamilton better than 4.5. And then I'm going to go worse on both of mine for Esty Bestie at 14.5 and Yuki at 13.5. I'm upset that they didn't have Ajar. I thought I saw him at the beginning of the week, but I must have been wrong. Or they just took it.
All
right, Nick.
Do.
Well, that wraps it up for our day. I know we had some slight technical issues, but we managed to continue on. We pushed even though we couldn't get into 6th gear. But now, Nick, our car needs to come in, change its tires, and what?
Box.
That delay was fantastic. All right, we will see you guys after the Grand Prix. Hopefully we can help you make your picks and enjoy some F1 talk before one of the best races of the year. But with that, Nick, we will see them after. Peace.
Deuces.